Welcome to a gentle journey through the world of Basset Hounds. Over the next few hours, we'll explore 100 fascinating facts about these remarkable dogs, their history, their nature, and the qualities that make them so beloved. Let yourself relax, breathe deeply, and drift along with these stories of low-slung hounds and their ancient heritage. Our first fact takes us back, far back in time, to ancient Egypt. In the shadows of pyramids and along the banks of the Nile, Egyptian artists carved images into stone. And among those carvings, we find something remarkable. Short-legged scent hounds, dogs with long bodies close to the ground, resembling the early ancestors of what would one day become the Basset Hound. These ancient depictions tell us that humans have long valued dogs built low to the earth, dogs designed for following scent. Let's move forward through time now, to the 6th century, to the monasteries of Belgium. Here, in the quiet devotion of monastic life, monks at the Abbey of St. Hubert bred hounds. These were the St. Hubert's hounds, large, powerful scent hounds with drooping ears and solemn expressions. The monks bred these dogs with great care, selecting for tracking ability, for temperament, for that extraordinary nose. And it is from these medieval hounds, bred by patient hands in stone halls, that the Basset Hound descends. The legacy of those monastery kennels lives on, in every Basset that follows a scent trail today. Now, let's consider the name itself. Basset. It rolls off the tongue, musical, French. And indeed, it is French, coming from the word basse, meaning low. Low to the ground. It's a perfectly descriptive name, honest and simple. The French have always had a gift for naming things exactly as they are, and in calling these hounds Bassets, they captured their most obvious feature. That low-slung body, those short legs, a dog built close to the earth. During the 1500s, in the French countryside, breeders were developing something special. They were creating the Basset Hound as we know it, shaping it deliberately as a companion for hunters who traveled on foot. Imagine the rolling hills of France, the forests thick with game, and hunters who needed a dog that could work all day, following scent through brush and thicket. The Basset was their answer, developed over generations to be the perfect foot hunter's companion. And here's something important to understand about why the Basset became so popular among certain classes of people. Peasants, common folk, they favored these hounds for a very practical reason. They could hunt without horses. In an age when horses were expensive, when they marked the difference between nobility and common people, the Basset Hound was democratic. A farmer could follow his Basset through the woods, keeping pace easily, no horse required. The dog did not run ahead and disappear. It worked at human speed. This brings us to one of the Basset's most endearing qualities, their slower pace. Unlike swift hounds that race ahead, the Basset moves deliberately, methodically, and this allowed humans to track alongside them, to stay with the hunt, to be part of the process rather than left behind. Imagine walking through an autumn forest, leaves crunching underfoot, following your Basset as it works a scent trail, nose down, tail up, moving at a pace you can match. There's something meditative about it, something peaceful. The breeders of these dogs, They made choices. Selective breeding is always about priorities, about deciding what matters most. And with the Basset, they prioritized scent accuracy over speed. They wanted a nose that could untangle the most complex scent trail, that could stay focused for hours, that wouldn't be distracted. Speed? That was secondary. What mattered was getting it right, finding the quarry, being reliable. And so, generation after generation, they bred for that extraordinary nose, for patience, for determination. To enhance this already impressive scenting ability even further, Basset breeders later crossed their dogs with bloodhounds. The bloodhound, legendary for its tracking ability, brought even more scenting power to the Basset line. Picture those long, drooping ears, that heavy, folded skin around the face. These aren't just for show. They help trap and funnel scent toward the nose. They're functional features, engineered through centuries of breeding. The bloodhound influence made the Basset's nose even more formidable. The family tree of the Basset Hound branches widely, and among those branches we find Norman staghounds. These were powerful hunting dogs, bred in Normandy for tracking deer, large game. Their lineage flows into the Basset, contributing to the breed structure, its determination, its hunting instinct. Every Basset carries within it the legacy of multiple hound types, a tapestry of canine history woven together. And finally, a fascinating detail about the broader Basset family. The Basset Hound we know, the one that has become popular worldwide, is not alone. 5 other French Basset breeds exist today, cousins to our familiar long-eared friend. There's the Basset Artesian Normand, the Basset Bleu de Gascon, the Basset Fauve de Bretagne, the Grand Basset Griffon Vendine, and the Petit Basset Griffon Vendine. Each has its own character, its own regional history, but all share that essential Basset nature, that low build, that extraordinary nose, that connection to French hunting tradition. Take a deep breath now, and let these images settle in your mind. Ancient Egyptian stones, Belgian monasteries, French forests, generations of breeders shaping dogs with patience and purpose. The Basset Hound carries all of this history, in every deliberate step, in every scent trail followed. Rest now, and when you're ready, we'll continue our journey. Let's turn our attention now to the Basset Hound's remarkable body. Every curve, every proportion, every seemingly unusual feature has a purpose. This is a dog designed by centuries of selective breeding, shaped by the needs of hunters, refined by the physics of scent work. As we explore these next facts, notice how everything connects, how form follows function in the most elegant way. We begin with something scientific, something that sounds complex but is actually quite beautiful in its simplicity. Osteochondrodysplasia. It's a genetic condition, and it's the reason for those distinctively short legs and heavy bone structure. This isn't a defect, it's a feature, a deliberate aspect of what makes a Basset a Basset. The long bones in their legs grow differently, remaining short while the rest of the body develops to full size. The result? That characteristic low-to-ground silhouette, those sturdy, shortened limbs supporting a full-sized hound body. It's the same genetic mechanism that creates Dachshunds and Corgis, other breeds where short legs serve a purpose. In the Basset, it keeps them close to the ground, where the scent is strongest. Now, those ears. If you've ever watched a Basset Hound, you've noticed those magnificent, impossibly long ears. They drag along the ground sometimes, sweeping through grass and leaves. And this isn't accidental. Those long ears act as scent funnels, literal tools for their work. As the Basset moves with its nose down, following a trail, those ears sweep across the ground, stirring up scent particles, directing them upward toward the nose. It's like having built-in scent collectors, biological equipment designed specifically for tracking. Watch a Basset work sometime. See how those ears move, how they brush through the environment, gathering information, channeling it to where it needs to go. And speaking of scent work, let's consider the face. All that loose, wrinkled skin around the muzzle and face, the folds and dewlaps. They might look like extra baggage, but they're not. This loose facial skin traps scent particles, holds them close to the muzzle where they can be analyzed. Think of it as a scent reservoir, a way of keeping the information right there, available for continuous assessment. When a Basset is tracking, all those wrinkles are working, holding scent molecules in place, allowing the dog to process complex scent information over time. It's brilliant. In its own way, nature and breeding working together to create a living scent analysis machine. Beneath all that loose skin and those long ears, there's a deep chest. The Basset's chest is substantial, barrel-like, providing room for large lungs. And this matters because tracking isn't sprint work, it's marathon work. A Basset might follow a scent trail for hours, moving steadily, breathing steadily, never giving up. That deep chest supports the lung capacity necessary for long tracking sessions, for sustained effort over time. It's the same reason distance runners develop strong cardiovascular systems. The Basset is built for endurance, for the long pursuit, for patience that outlasts the quarry. Look down at a Basset's feet, and you'll notice something. Those paws are large, surprisingly large for a dog of their height. And there's a reason for this too. Large paws provide stability on uneven terrain. When you're moving through forests, across fields, over roots and rocks and uncertain ground, you need a solid foundation. Those broad paws distribute weight, prevent sinking into soft earth, provide traction and balance. They're like snowshoes in a way, spreading the load, keeping the dog stable and sure-footed no matter what the ground looks like. The Basset's skin, it's not just loose on the face. Their thick skin helps protect them from thorns and brush. When you're pushing through undergrowth, when you're following a scent trail that leads into brambles and thickets, you need protection. That thick, somewhat baggy skin provides a buffer, a layer of armor against scrapes and scratches. A thorn that might injure a thin-skinned dog, it might not even reach the muscle beneath a Basset's protective skin layer. It's practical, essential even, for a dog that works in rough country. Now watch a Basset in tall grass, and you'll notice something charming. Their tail curves upward, held high, like a flag. This isn't vanity, it's visibility. When a Basset is working in vegetation taller than they are, which is often, that upward curving tail remains visible above the grass line. A hunter could follow that white-tipped tail, could track their dog's progress even when the body disappeared into the undergrowth. It's a built-in communication system, a way of saying, I'm here. I'm still working, follow me. Even today, when most Bassets are companions rather than hunting dogs, that tail still curves up, still waves like a friendly banner. The Basset Hound breed standard. It's quite accepting when it comes to color. Any hound coloration is accepted. Tricolor, the classic combination of black, white, and tan, that's perhaps most common. But you'll also see red and white, lemon and white, blue and white, various combinations and patterns. Some are mostly white with patches, others are mostly colored with white accents. This variety reflects the breed's working heritage, where function mattered more than fashion, where a good nose was more important than matching a color chart. It gives each Basset a kind of individuality, makes each one unique. Let's talk about size for a moment, because the Basset is an interesting study in proportions. Males typically weigh 50 to 65 pounds. That's substantial, that's a solid, heavy dog. Not because they're fat, but because they're densely built, heavy-boned, carrying significant weight in compact form. They're surprisingly strong, surprisingly heavy to lift, all that weight packed into a low, elongated body. Females, they usually weigh between 40 and 55 pounds. Still substantial, still solid and sturdy, but generally somewhat lighter than the males. This size difference is present but not dramatic. Both sexes are hefty dogs, both have that characteristic Basset substance and bone. Whether male or female, you're looking at a dog that feels weighty, that has presence, that couldn't be mistaken for anything delicate. And yet, despite that weight, despite that solid build, they stand just 12 to 15 inches tall at the shoulder. Think about that for a moment. 60 pounds in a dog that's barely over a foot tall. It's an unusual ratio, and it creates that distinctive Basset silhouette. Long and low, stretched out, built horizontally rather than vertically. It's part of their charm, part of what makes people smile when they see a Basset. There's something almost comical about it, and yet, it's perfectly functional, perfectly designed for their purpose. One thing to know about Bassets: they're not in a hurry to grow up. These dogs mature slowly, taking their time to reach full size. Most don't hit their complete adult size until around age 2. They're puppies for longer than many breeds, going through an extended adolescence, growing gradually into those big bones and long ears. It's something to be aware of if you're raising a Basset, that patience is required, that you're in it for the long development. But perhaps that's fitting, for a breed that values patience, that moves deliberately, that never rushes. That unusual body shape, it affects how they move. Their center of gravity, it's low, stable, distributed along a horizontal plane rather than a vertical one. And this makes them excellent at steady movement. They're not tippy, they're not prone to losing balance. They move with a kind of determined waddle, rocking slightly from side to side, but always stable, always grounded. It's not elegant in the traditional sense, but it's effective. Watch a Basset cross a hillside or navigate rough ground. They're remarkably sure-footed. That low center of gravity keeps them stable when other dogs might stumble. Those heavy bones we mentioned, they contribute to endurance. Solid structure, substantial skeletal framework. It supports long periods of work, of sustained activity. A Basset can keep going, and going, and going, following a scent trail with the persistence of a hound bred for exactly that purpose. But there's a trade-off. Those heavy bones reduce jumping ability. A Basset is not getting over a high fence easily. They're not leaping onto furniture in a single bound. They're built for horizontal movement, for covering distance along the ground, not for vertical exploits. And this brings us to a fundamental truth about the Basset Hound. Their bodies are built for persistence, not agility. They're marathon runners, not sprinters. They're steady, not flashy. They won't wow you with athletic feats, won't catch frisbees in midair, won't execute tight turns at high speed. But put them on a scent trail, give them a job that requires determination and endurance, and they'll outlast nearly any other dog. They'll work all day, they'll never give up, they'll follow that scent wherever it leads, moving at their own pace, unbothered by the fact that faster dogs have come and gone. The Basset endures. Rest your eyes now, picture that low-slung body, those long ears sweeping the ground, that upturned tail waving above the grass. Every part, working together, a body designed by physics and smell. When you're ready, we'll continue. Now, let us journey inward. Beyond the physical form, beyond those long ears and short legs, there exists the Basset mind. And it is a fascinating place. A place of deep focus, of selective attention, of priorities that may not always align with human expectations. Understanding how a Basset thinks, how they experience the world, this is key to appreciating who they really are. Let's start with the most dominant feature of the Basset psyche. These dogs have one of the strongest scent drives of any breed. Not just strong, one of the strongest. This isn't a casual interest in smells. This is an all-consuming passion, a fundamental drive that shapes everything about how they interact with the world. When a Basset encounters a scent, something interesting, something worth investigating, it's not just noticing it. The scent becomes everything. The world narrows. Focus sharpens. Nothing else exists except that smell and the need to follow it, to understand it, to track it to its source. It's not stubbornness, not really. It's priority. And for a Basset, scent comes first. This brings us to something that Basset owners know all too well. Once locked onto a scent, these dogs often ignore commands. Not out of spite, not because they don't hear you, but because in that moment, the scent is more important than anything else. You can call, you can command, you can plead. But if the Basset has found something compelling, some trail that demands following, your voice becomes background noise. Irrelevant data. They're not being defiant in the way we usually think of defiance. They've simply shifted into a different mode, a working mode, where the nose is in charge and everything else, even the beloved human voice, becomes secondary. This quality, this intense focus on scent above all else, it affects how Bassets perform in certain contexts. They rank low in obedience trials, not because they're unintelligent, but because of independent thinking. Obedience trials reward immediate compliance, quick responses to commands, eager to please attentiveness. And the Basset? Well, the Basset thinks things through, considers whether the command makes sense, weighs it against other priorities. A border collie lives to obey, a basset lives to follow its nose. These are different kinds of intelligence, different value systems. The obedience trial ranking doesn't mean a basset can't learn, it means they choose when to comply, and that choice is often based on whether they have something more interesting to do. But, put a basset in their element, and everything changes. They excel in tracking and nosework competitions. Here, finally, is something that aligns with their deepest nature. A scent trail to follow, a puzzle solved through olfactory investigation. This is what they were made for. In these competitions, that intense focus becomes an asset. That ability to tune out distractions, to ignore commands when necessary, these become strengths. Watch a basset in a tracking trial, and you see a completely different dog. Confident, driven, utterly absorbed in the work. This is where they shine, where their particular form of genius becomes visible. It's important to understand something about the basset's social history. They were originally bred to work in packs rather than solo. This shapes their personality in ways that persist even today. Pack hounds learn to work alongside other dogs, to communicate with them, to coordinate without constant human direction. They're less focused on pleasing a single master, more oriented toward the collective hunt, the group endeavor. This makes them different from breeds developed to work one-on-one with humans. The basset doesn't necessarily see you as the center of their universe. They see you as part of the pack, an important member certainly, but not the sole source of meaning and direction. And when it comes to communication, bassets have their own distinct vocabulary. They communicate using bays and howls instead of sharp barks. It's a hound thing, this melodious, mournful, carrying vocalization. A basset doesn't yap. When they have something to say, they bay. It's a sound that comes from deep in the chest, that resonates, that has a musical quality to it. Some people find it charming, others find it a bit much, especially in an apartment. But it's authentic, it's how they were designed to communicate during the hunt, announcing that they found something, calling to their packmates, sharing information across distance. And speaking of distance, their baying can carry long distances outdoors. This was essential in their working life. A hunter needed to know where the hounds were, even when they disappeared into thick cover. That bay, carrying across fields and through forests, it was a beacon. We're here, we've found something, follow the sound. Even now, when most bassets never hunt, that voice remains. Powerful, penetrating, designed to be heard from far away. It's something to consider if you have neighbors close by. That voice, it travels. Food. Let's talk about food. Because for a basset, food motivation is one of their strongest behavioral traits. These dogs, they love to eat. Not just enjoy eating, love it. Food is fascinating, compelling, worth significant effort to obtain. This can be useful in training. Food rewards work well with bassets, at least when they're not distracted by scents. But it also means you need to be careful. Bassets will countersurf, will investigate any interesting food smell, will eat far more than is good for them if given the chance. That food drive, it's powerful, and it requires management. Here's a phrase that basset owners use, often with a mixture of frustration and affection. They can become selectively deaf when following a smell. Selectively deaf. It's the perfect description. You know they can hear perfectly well, their hearing is fine. But when that nose is engaged, when they're locked onto something interesting, your voice simply doesn't register. Or perhaps, it registers but is immediately dismissed as unimportant. The scent says this way and you say come here and the scent wins. Every time. It's not hearing loss, it's priority management. And the priorities are clear. If you have a yard, and you have a basset, you may notice holes. Because digging is common when scents are present. Something smells interesting underground, a mole trail, a buried treasure, some fascinating olfactory signature in the soil, and the basset must investigate. Must dig. Must get to the source. It's not destructive behavior for the sake of destruction, it's investigation. It's following the nose, pursuing information, using the tools available. The fact that this leaves holes in your lawn, well, that's a side effect. The important thing is, what did that smell lead to? What information was buried there? Now, here's something important to understand about these stubborn, independent, scent-obsessed dogs. They are emotionally sensitive despite their stubbornness. This surprises people sometimes. That beneath the "I'm going to do what I want" exterior, there's a soft heart. Bassets feel things deeply. They bond strongly with their families. They notice tension, respond to moods, can be hurt by harsh treatment. That independence doesn't mean they don't care. It means they have their own priorities. But within the pack, within the family, they're sensitive souls. They want harmony. They want to be included. They want gentle handling. The stubbornness and the sensitivity, they coexist. You can't bully a Basset into compliance, but you can disappoint them. And they remember. Let's dispel a stereotype. The image of the Basset, often, is of a lazy, droopy, sad-looking dog lying on the floor. And while adult Bassets do enjoy their rest, this stereotype misses something important. Younger Bassets are far more playful than stereotypes suggest. A young Basset, a puppy or adolescent, they're goofy, energetic. They romp, they play, they get into everything. Yes, they're still scent-driven, still independent thinkers. But they're also fun. They have puppy energy, puppy joy, that quality of finding everything new and exciting. The droopy couch potato image, that comes later, with maturity and contentment. But youth is playful. And even as they grow, they retain puppy-like curiosity well into adulthood. That sense of wonder, that "what's this? What's that? Where does this smell lead?" It doesn't entirely disappear with age. Adult Bassets, even senior Bassets, they still investigate. Still get interested in new things. Still follow interesting trails just because they're interesting. The curiosity that defines puppyhood. It mellows but never vanishes. There's always something to sniff, something to discover, some mystery to solve with that magnificent nose. The Basset mind, it's not simple. It's not just stubbornness or laziness or obsession. It's a complex thing, a balance of drives and sensitivities, of independence and need for connection, of single-minded focus and playful curiosity. They're not trying to be difficult. They're being exactly what they were bred to be. Hounds. Scent hounds. Dogs who think for themselves, who work with determination, who follow their noses into whatever adventure awaits. Understanding this, accepting it, appreciating the particular genius of the Basset mind. This is how you live harmoniously with these dogs. You don't fight what they are, you work with it. You give them outlets for that scent drive. You accept that perfect obedience isn't their style. You love them for being exactly, perfectly, themselves. Breathe deeply now. Let your mind wander. Imagine seeing the world through a Basset's nose, where every breeze carries stories, where the ground is a book written in scent, where following a trail is the highest calling. Rest. And soon we'll continue our journey. Now let's step into the everyday, the practical realities of sharing your home and life with a Basset Hound. Because knowing the breed's history, understanding their body and mind, that's one thing. But living with them day to day, that's where theory meets practice. And the Basset, well, they have specific needs, specific quirks, that shape what life together looks like. Here's something that surprises people sometimes. Basset Hounds adapt well to apartment living with proper walks. You might think, a hunting dog, a scent hound, surely they need acres of land? But no. Despite their working heritage, despite that powerful nose and tracking instinct, Bassets can be perfectly content in an apartment. They are not hyperactive. They don't need to run marathons. What they need is mental stimulation, physical exercise in moderate amounts, and of course, things to smell. An apartment can provide all of this, as long as you're committed to taking them out, giving them access to the world beyond four walls. They'll happily sleep on your couch for much of the day, as long as their needs are met. But here's the key to apartment harmony. Daily exercise prevents boredom-driven howling. A bored Basset, a Basset with pent-up energy and nothing to do, they'll find ways to entertain themselves. And often, that entertainment involves their voice. Remember that carrying bay we talked about? It becomes much less charming when it's happening repeatedly in an apartment building, because your Basset is understimulated. But a Basset who's had a good walk, who's had a chance to sniff and investigate and tire themselves out, they're content. Quiet, happy to rest. The exercise isn't optional. It's essential for everyone's peace of mind. So how much exercise are we talking about? They require 30 to 60 minutes of walking per day. Not running, walking. This is important. Bassets aren't built for speed, for intense cardio, for jogging alongside a bicycle. They're built for steady, sustained movement. A good walk, maybe 2 shorter walks, where they can move at their own pace, stop to investigate interesting smells, that's what they need. 30 minutes minimum, 60 minutes ideal. It's not a huge time commitment compared to some breeds, but it needs to happen. Every day, rain or shine. That daily walk, it's the foundation of a content Basset life. Now, some Bassets, particularly those who really love their scent work, they enjoy longer scent-focused outings of up to 2 hours. These are the enthusiasts, the ones who could follow trails all day if you let them. If you're someone who enjoys long walks in nature, hiking trails, exploring, a Basset can be a wonderful companion for these adventures. Let them set some of the pace. Let them explore with their nose, and those 2 hours will pass in a kind of meditative rhythm. You walking, them sniffing, both moving through the world together. It's peaceful, in its way. But not all Bassets need this much. It depends on the individual dog, their age, their particular drive level. Here's a practical challenge that Basset owners face. They struggle with stairs due to body proportions. That long body, those short legs, the physics just don't work well for stairs. Going up is difficult. Going down can be worse. The spine extends horizontally, and stairs require vertical movement, and the strain on the back, on those short legs trying to navigate height changes, it's significant. Some Bassets refuse stairs entirely. Others will attempt them, but with obvious difficulty. If you live in a multi-story home, you need to think about this. Can you carry them when necessary? Should certain floors be off-limits? It's not an insurmountable problem, but it's real, and it shapes how you arrange your life together. Similarly, jumping off furniture can strain their spine. That long back, it's not designed for impact loading from height. A small dog can leap off a couch without consequence. A basset, that's a different story. The landing puts stress on the spine, on those shortened legs, and over time, repeated jumping can cause real problems. Intervertebral disc disease, back injuries, these are risks for bassets. Some owners teach their bassets not to get on furniture at all. Others provide steps or ramps, ways to get up and down safely without jumping. Either approach works, but letting them freely jump on and off furniture, that's asking for trouble down the line. Let's talk about something less serious but very real. Their low stature causes them to track dirt indoors. It's just physics again. When your belly is a few inches off the ground, when you walk through mud or wet grass or dusty trails, you're going to collect environmental material on your underside. A tall dog stays relatively clean. A basset becomes a mobile dirt collector. Their chest, their belly, even those long ears dragging through puddles, they all bring the outdoors in with them. It's not their fault, it's just structural reality. If you're someone who needs a pristine home, this might be challenging. But there's a simple solution. Regular paw cleaning reduces mess and irritation. Keep towels by the door. Make it a routine. When you come back from a walk, especially a wet or muddy one, wipe down those paws. Check between the pads for debris. Maybe wipe the chest and belly if they're particularly dirty. It becomes automatic after a while, part of the coming home ritual. And it saves you a lot of cleaning later, saves your floors, saves the furniture. Plus, it's good for the dog, removing irritants from between their toes, keeping them comfortable. A few minutes of prevention. Worth it. Now, the coat. Basset hounds have short hair. You might think that means minimal shedding. But their coats shed moderately year-round. Not as much as a husky, not as little as a poodle. Moderate. Consistent. You'll find basset hair on your clothes, your furniture, your floors. It's not overwhelming, but it's present. This is just part of life with the breed, that short, dense coat. It's constantly renewing itself, and the old hair has to go somewhere. The good news is, weekly brushing helps control shedding. Just once a week, take a good brush, maybe a rubber curry brush or a bristle brush, and go over the coat thoroughly. You'll be amazed at how much loose hair comes off. And that's hair in the brush, not on your couch. It's also bonding time. Most bassets enjoy being brushed, find it soothing. And it keeps the coat healthy, distributes natural oils, removes dirt and dander. One of the easier grooming requirements, really, 15 minutes a week, makes a noticeable difference. Here's where bassets differ from some other short-coated breeds. Bathing is needed more frequently than average breeds. Not every day, not every week necessarily, but more often than, say, a German Shepherd needs bathing. Why? Well, there's a reason. And we need to talk about it honestly because it's part of life with a basset. Their oily skin contributes to the classic hound smell. There it is. The truth. Bassets, they have a scent. Not everyone notices it. Some people don't mind it. But it's there. That distinctive doggy smell, a bit musky, a bit oily. It comes from their skin, from the oils that protect their coat, that keep their skin healthy. It's natural. It's normal. It's hound. Some people call it endearing, part of the basset package. Others find it less charming. Either way, it's real. Regular bathing helps manage this. Maybe once every few weeks, once a month, depending on how oily their skin gets, how much they smell, how much outdoor activity they've been doing. Use a good dog shampoo, nothing too harsh that will strip all the oils, because those oils serve a purpose. But a bath, it resets things, reduces the smell, makes them more pleasant to cuddle with. And then, gradually, over the next couple weeks, the oils return, and with them, the scent. It's a cycle. Part of the reality of living with these dogs. Between baths, you can wipe them down with dog-friendly wipes, especially focusing on those wrinkles and skin folds where oils and dirt accumulate. The ears especially. We'll talk more about ear care later, but they need attention. That loose skin, those folds, they can trap moisture and oils, and if neglected, can develop problems. So regular maintenance, even between full baths, it's important. None of this is meant to discourage. It's just honesty. Living with a Basset means accepting certain realities. The dirt they track in, the shedding, the smell, the physical limitations around stairs and jumping. These aren't flaws, they're simply characteristics. Part of the breed. And thousands of people, millions maybe, live with Bassets and wouldn't trade them for anything. Because yes, there's maintenance, there's accommodation required, but there's also companionship. That steady presence. That gentle personality. That amusing stubbornness. The way they look at you with those droopy, soulful eyes. The practical challenges. They're manageable. You develop routines. You adjust your expectations. You put down washable rugs and keep towels handy and maybe invest in a good vacuum. You help them with stairs and keep them off high furniture and give them their daily walk without fail. You brush them weekly and bathe them regularly and accept that yes, there's a certain hound smell to life now. And in return, you get a Basset. A companion who's content to be near you, who finds the world endlessly fascinating, who moves through life at their own pace with quiet dignity, who makes you laugh with their stubbornness and their ridiculous ears and their determined waddle, who curls up next to you in the evening, solid and warm and peaceful. Living with a Basset, it's not for everyone. But for those who appreciate what they are, who can laugh at the quirks and work with the requirements and love the whole package, it's deeply rewarding. These dogs, they grow on you. They become part of your daily rhythm. You can't imagine life without that bay, that smell, those ears, that stubborn, loving, scent-obsessed presence. Let yourself relax now. Imagine that comfortable weight leaning against your leg, warm and solid and content. The soft sound of Basset breathing, the peace of a well-exercised hound at rest. We'll continue soon. We turn now to a more serious topic, but an important one. The health of these remarkable dogs. Because loving a Basset means understanding their vulnerabilities, knowing what to watch for, how to protect them, how to give them the best chance at a long, comfortable life. Every breed has its challenges, its particular susceptibilities. The Basset is no exception. But knowledge, awareness, these are tools we can use to help them thrive. Let's start with the basic question. How long? The average lifespan is 10 to 12 years. A decade, perhaps a bit more. It's not the longest among dog breeds, but it's respectable. 10 years of companionship, of those soulful eyes and ridiculous ears, of stubborn walks and peaceful evenings. 12 years if you're fortunate. It seems like a long time when they're puppies, and then, somehow, it passes. But these are good years, full years, if we care for them properly. And here's something hopeful. Some live up to 14 years with excellent care. 14 years. It's possible. Not guaranteed, not common, but possible. What constitutes excellent care? Good nutrition without overfeeding, regular but not excessive exercise, prompt attention to health issues, good genetics to start with, and perhaps a bit of luck. Those extra years, they're precious. Every additional year with a beloved dog, it's a gift. And while we can't control everything, we can stack the odds in their favor through the choices we make. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Or rather, the long back in the room. Those short legs and long spine, they're charming, they're distinctive, but they come with consequences. Long backs increase risk of spinal injury. The physics are simple. A long spine without adequate support from the legs, it creates stress points. The back has to do work it wasn't designed to do in quite that proportion. And this makes Bassets vulnerable. A wrong movement, a fall, even just the accumulated stress of daily life, it can cause problems. We have to be mindful of this, protective, aware that their very shape creates vulnerability. The specific concern here, the one that haunts Basset owners and veterinarians alike, intervertebral disc disease is a major concern. IVDD, the discs between the vertebrae, those cushions that allow the spine to move, they can degenerate, herniate, press on the spinal cord, cause pain, weakness, even paralysis in severe cases. It's not inevitable. Many Bassets live their whole lives without serious spinal issues. But the risk is real. And when it happens, it's serious. Treatment can range from rest and medication, to surgery in severe cases. Prevention means being careful with their backs, avoiding jumping, managing weight, being vigilant for signs of pain or weakness. The hips, those joints where the legs meet the body, they're under constant stress in a basset. Hip dysplasia can worsen with excess weight. Dysplasia, where the hip joint doesn't form properly, where the ball and socket don't fit quite right. It causes arthritis, pain, difficulty moving. Many breeds face this, but in a basset, weight makes it worse. Because they're already carrying substantial weight on a frame that's compressed, low to the ground. Every extra pound, every ounce of excess weight, it adds to the burden on those hips. Keeping a basset lean, not skinny, but properly lean, it's one of the most important things you can do for their long-term health. The front legs, those heavy, weight-bearing limbs, they face their own challenges. Elbow dysplasia affects their heavy front limbs. Similar to hip dysplasia, but in the elbows. The joint doesn't develop correctly, the bones don't align perfectly, and over time, arthritis develops. Pain follows. Difficulty walking. The front end of a basset, it carries so much weight, those elbows are doing serious work. When they're compromised by dysplasia, every step becomes harder. Again, genetics play a role, but weight management, avoiding strain, these things help. We keep coming back to it, and for good reason. Obesity significantly increases joint strain. Let's be clear about this. A fat basset is not a happy basset, no matter how much they enjoy eating. Those joints, already vulnerable, already working hard, they cannot handle excess weight. An obese basset is on a path toward pain, toward mobility problems, toward a shortened life. It's hard sometimes, because they love food, because those eyes are so pleading, because giving treats feels like love. But real love, true care, means keeping them lean. Feeling their ribs easily, seeing a waist, these are signs of appropriate weight. Not skinny, but not overweight either. It's perhaps the single most important thing you can control about their health. Now let's talk about something frightening. That deep chest we admired earlier, that supports their lung capacity, it also creates a risk. Deep chests raise the risk of bloat. Bloat, or GDV, gastric dilatation and volvulus. It's a medical emergency. The stomach fills with gas, expands, and sometimes rotates, twists. Blood supply gets cut off. It's agonizing, and without immediate surgery, it's fatal. Deep-chested breeds. Great Danes. Bassets. They're particularly susceptible. It's something every basset owner should know about, should watch for. Restlessness after eating, swollen abdomen, unsuccessful attempts to vomit. These are signs. Minutes matter. It's terrifying, but knowledge saves lives. There's a simple thing that helps reduce this risk. Feeding smaller meals reduces bloat risk. Instead of one large meal a day, feed 2 smaller meals. Or even 3. Let the stomach process smaller amounts at a time. Reduce the amount of fermentation, the gas production. Don't let them gulp water in huge amounts right after eating. Avoid vigorous exercise immediately after meals. These are simple precautions, easy to implement, and they genuinely help. Not a guarantee, nothing is, but meaningful risk reduction. The eyes, those soulful, droopy eyes, they face particular challenges. Glaucoma has strong genetic links in bassets. Glaucoma, increased pressure within the eye, it damages the optic nerve, causes pain, can lead to blindness. It's insidious, often not noticed until it's advanced. Regular veterinary eye exams, watching for signs like cloudiness, redness, squinting, these matter. Treatment exists, eye drops to reduce pressure, sometimes surgery, but early detection is crucial. And breeding from dogs without glaucoma in their lines, this is how we reduce its prevalence over time. Those droopy lower eyelids, so characteristic, so expressive, they're also problematic. Ectropion exposes eyes to irritation and infection. Ectropion, where the eyelid rolls outward, doesn't close properly, leaves the eye exposed. Debris gets in more easily. The eye dries out. Infections develop. Some bassets need eye drops regularly, artificial tears to keep things moist. Severe cases might need surgery to correct the lid position. It's not life-threatening, but it's uncomfortable, and it requires attention. Another thing to watch for, another aspect of care. And then, the ears. Those magnificent, ground-sweeping ears that funnel scent so beautifully. They're also health hazards. Ear infections are common due to low airflow. Think about it, those long, heavy ears hanging down, covering the ear canal, trapping moisture and heat, preventing air circulation. It's the perfect environment for bacteria and yeast. Dark, warm, moist. Ear infections are not a matter of if, but when, and how often. Regular ear cleaning, checking for redness, smell, discharge, these become part of routine care. Some Bassets need their ears cleaned weekly. Others can go longer. But neglect those ears, and problems develop quickly. There's an internal issue that's less visible but equally important. Hyperthyroidism can affect metabolism and coat health. The thyroid, that small gland that regulates so much, sometimes it doesn't produce enough hormone. Metabolism slows. Weight gain becomes easy. Weight loss becomes hard. The coat changes, becomes thin, dull, brittle. Energy drops. It's subtle sometimes, easy to attribute to aging or laziness. But it's treatable. A simple blood test, daily medication, and thyroid levels normalize. The dog feels better, the coat improves, weight becomes manageable again. Worth checking if something seems off. Here's the good news, the thing that gives hope. Genetic screening greatly reduces inherited risks. Responsible breeders test their dogs. They check for hip dysplasia, elbow dysplasia, eye problems, thyroid issues. They don't breed dogs that carry serious genetic problems. They work to improve the breed, to reduce the prevalence of these inherited conditions. When you get a Basset from a breeder who does health testing, who can show you clearances, who breeds thoughtfully, you're starting with better odds. Not a guarantee of perfect health. No one can promise that, but better genetics, fewer risk factors inherited from the start. None of this is meant to frighten. Yes, Bassets have vulnerabilities. Yes, they require attentive care. But millions of these dogs live good lives, comfortable lives, because their people understand the risks and act accordingly. They keep weight appropriate. They're careful with backs and joints. They watch for signs of problems. They work with veterinarians. They choose breeders carefully. Every breed has something. Perfect dogs don't exist. The question is, are you willing to be vigilant? To provide the care these particular vulnerabilities require? To accept that loving a Basset means understanding their fragility, their specific needs, and meeting those needs consistently? For those who answer yes, the rewards are profound. Because these dogs, with all their health challenges, with all their vulnerabilities, they give so much. Their presence, their personality, their unwavering companionship. They ask for care, for attention, for understanding. And in return, they offer themselves. Completely. Loyally. For whatever time they have. Let your breathing slow. Feel the weight of this responsibility. The gift of caring for another life. The privilege of being trusted with their well-being. Rest now, and when you're ready, we'll move forward together. Let's talk now about bringing a Basset into your life, into your family. About the delicate art of training these independent-minded hounds, about their social needs, about how they fit into the complex dynamics of human households. Because understanding their body and mind is one thing, but understanding how to actually live alongside them, how to shape behavior, how to integrate them into family life, this is where theory becomes daily practice. First, the foundation of all Basset training. Positive reinforcement works far better than punishment. This isn't just philosophy, it's practical reality. Bassets, remember, they're independent thinkers. They're not desperate to please. They don't live for your approval the way some breeds do. So punishment, corrections, harsh methods, they don't create the response you're hoping for. They don't make the Basset think, oh, I'd better obey. Instead, they make the Basset think this person is unpleasant, or this isn't worth my time, or sometimes simply no. But positive reinforcement, rewards for good behavior, treats, praise, affection when they do what you want. This gives them a reason to cooperate. It makes compliance worthwhile. It builds a partnership rather than a power struggle. In fact, and this is important, harsh training increases stubborn behavior. It's counterproductive. You push, they push back. You get forceful, they get more determined to resist. It's not defiance for its own sake, it's self-preservation, it's maintaining autonomy. Bassets have dignity. They have pride. Treat them harshly and they simply shut down. Or dig in. Either way, you're not getting cooperation. You're getting a relationship based on conflict rather than trust. And training a Basset is hard enough without adding conflict to the equation. Timing matters enormously. Early training helps prevent scent-chasing habits. When they're young, when they're still puppies, before those scent drive instincts fully mature and dominate, you have a window. A chance to establish patterns. To teach that coming when called is rewarding. That walking on a loose leash is expected. That certain boundaries exist. Wait too long, let them mature into adolescence with no training, and those scent instincts become overwhelming. The nose takes over. And then, training becomes exponentially harder. Not impossible, but much more difficult. Start early. Be consistent. Build good habits before the scent drive reaches its full power. The eyes, those soulful, droopy eyes, they face particular challenges. Glaucoma has strong genetic links in Bassets. Glaucoma, increased pressure within the eye, it damages the optic nerve, causes pain, can lead to blindness. It's insidious, often not noticed until it's advanced. Regular veterinary eye exams, watching for signs like cloudiness, redness, squinting, these matter. Treatment exists, eye drops to reduce pressure, sometimes surgery, but early detection is crucial. And breeding from dogs without glaucoma in their lines, this is how we reduce its prevalence over time. Those droopy lower eyelids, so characteristic, so expressive, they're also problematic. Ectropion exposes eyes to irritation and infection. Ectropion, where the eyelid rolls outward, doesn't close properly, leaves the eye exposed. Debris gets in more easily. The eye dries out. Infections develop. Some Bassets need eye drops regularly, artificial tears to keep things moist. Severe cases might need surgery to correct the lid position. It's not life-threatening, but it's uncomfortable, and it requires attention. Another thing to watch for, another aspect of care. And then, the ears. Those magnificent, ground-sweeping ears that funnel scent so beautifully. They're also health hazards. Ear infections are common due to low airflow. Think about it, those long, heavy ears hanging down, covering the ear canal, trapping moisture and heat, preventing air circulation. It's the perfect environment for bacteria and yeast. Dark, warm, moist. Ear infections are not a matter of if, but when, and how often. Regular ear cleaning, checking for redness, smell, discharge, these become part of routine care. Some Bassets need their ears cleaned weekly. Others can go longer. But neglect those ears, and problems develop quickly. There's an internal issue that's less visible but equally important. Hyperthyroidism can affect metabolism and coat health. The thyroid, that small gland that regulates so much, sometimes it doesn't produce enough hormone. Metabolism slows. Weight gain becomes easy. Weight loss becomes hard. The coat changes, becomes thin, dull, brittle. Energy drops. It's subtle sometimes, easy to attribute to aging or laziness. But it's treatable. A simple blood test, daily medication, and thyroid levels normalize. The dog feels better, the coat improves, weight becomes manageable again. Worth checking if something seems off. Here's the good news, the thing that gives hope. Genetic screening greatly reduces inherited risks. Responsible breeders test their dogs. They check for hip dysplasia, elbow dysplasia, eye problems, thyroid issues. They don't breed dogs that carry serious genetic problems. They work to improve the breed, to reduce the prevalence of these inherited conditions. When you get a Basset from a breeder who does health testing, who can show you clearances, who breeds thoughtfully, you're starting with better odds. Not a guarantee of perfect health. No one can promise that, but better genetics, fewer risk factors inherited from the start. None of this is meant to frighten. Yes, Bassets have vulnerabilities. Yes, they require attentive care. But millions of these dogs live good lives, comfortable lives, because their people understand the risks and act accordingly. They keep weight appropriate. They're careful with backs and joints. They watch for signs of problems. They work with veterinarians. They choose breeders carefully. Every breed has something. Perfect dogs don't exist. The question is, are you willing to be vigilant? To provide the care these particular vulnerabilities require? To accept that loving a Basset means understanding their fragility, their specific needs, and meeting those needs consistently? For those who answer yes, the rewards are profound. Because these dogs, with all their health challenges, with all their vulnerabilities, they give so much. Their presence, their personality, their unwavering companionship. They ask for care, for attention, for understanding. And in return, they offer themselves. Completely. Loyally. For whatever time they have. Let your breathing slow. Feel the weight of this responsibility. The gift of caring for another life. The privilege of being trusted with their well-being. Rest now, and when you're ready, we'll move forward together. Let's talk now about bringing a Basset into your life, into your family. About the delicate art of training these independent-minded hounds, about their social needs, about how they fit into the complex dynamics of human households. Because understanding their body and mind is one thing, but understanding how to actually live alongside them, how to shape behavior, how to integrate them into family life, this is where theory becomes daily practice. First, the foundation of all Basset training. Positive reinforcement works far better than punishment. This isn't just philosophy, it's practical reality. Bassets, remember, they're independent thinkers. They're not desperate to please. They don't live for your approval the way some breeds do. So punishment, corrections, harsh methods, they don't create the response you're hoping for. They don't make the Basset think, oh, I'd better obey. Instead, they make the Basset think this person is unpleasant, or this isn't worth my time, or sometimes simply no. But positive reinforcement, rewards for good behavior, treats, praise, affection when they do what you want, this gives them a reason to cooperate. It makes compliance worthwhile. It builds a partnership rather than a power struggle. In fact, and this is important, harsh training increases stubborn behavior. It's counterproductive. You push, they push back. You get forceful, they get more determined to resist. It's not defiance for its own sake, it's self-preservation, it's maintaining autonomy. Bassets have dignity. They have pride. Treat them harshly and they simply shut down. Or dig in. Either way, you're not getting cooperation. You're getting a relationship based on conflict rather than trust. And training a Basset is hard enough without adding conflict to the equation. Timing matters enormously. Early training helps prevent scent-chasing habits. When they're young, when they're still puppies, before those scent-drive instincts fully mature and dominate, you have a window. A chance to establish patterns. To teach that coming when called is rewarding. That walking on a loose leash is expected. That certain boundaries exist. Wait too long, let them mature into adolescence with no training, and those scent instincts become overwhelming. The nose takes over. And then, training becomes exponentially harder. Not impossible, but much more difficult. Start early. Be consistent. Build good habits before the scent drive reaches its full power. Training a Basset, living with a Basset, integrating them into family life, none of it is effortless. They're not push-button dogs. They don't come pre-programmed with perfect obedience. They require patience, consistency, understanding of what they are and aren't. They require acceptance that some things, like perfect recall in a field full of rabbit scent, might never happen. They require recognizing that their stubborn independence isn't a flaw to be broken, but a characteristic to work with. But for those who can accept this, who can appreciate them as they are, who can train with patience and live with realistic expectations, the rewards are real. A loyal companion. A family member who bonds deeply. A dog who's good with children and friendly to guests. A personality that's both amusing and endearing. A presence that's steady, calm, peaceful when their needs are met. The Basset asks for understanding. For consistency without harshness. For mental stimulation alongside physical exercise. For company, preferably pack company, rather than isolation. For acceptance of their friendly nature even if it makes them poor guard dogs. Give them these things, and they give you themselves. Fully, completely, for all their days. Rest now in this understanding, breathe slowly. Imagine the peaceful rhythm of life with a well-trained, well-loved Basset. The challenges met, the bond formed, the daily joy of sharing space with these remarkable hounds. Soon, we continue. Now, let us step back and look at the larger picture. The Basset Hound, beyond individual dogs and individual families, has woven itself into culture, into history, into the collective imagination. These dogs have walked alongside the famous, appeared in our entertainment, become symbols and mascots. They've made their mark not just as companions, but as cultural icons. Let's trace this journey, from America's founding to modern media, and see how the Basset became more than just a breed. Our story begins at the very foundation of America. George Washington owned one of the first American Bassets. Washington, the first president, general, statesman, farmer, he was also a dog enthusiast. He bred foxhounds, he appreciated working dogs, he understood the value of a good hound. And among his kennels, there were Bassets. These French hounds, still relatively unknown in America at the time, found their way to Mount Vernon. It's a remarkable thought that the father of the country, walking his estate, might have been followed by those long ears and short legs, that distinctive waddle. But how did Washington acquire these dogs? The answer is a gift, a gesture of friendship between nations. Lafayette gifted a Basset Hound to Washington in 1785. The Marquis de Lafayette, French military officer, hero of the American Revolution, friend to Washington. He sent Bassets from France, sharing a piece of French hunting tradition with his American ally. Imagine that journey, these dogs crossing the Atlantic, carried as precious cargo, a symbol of Franco-American friendship. A gift from one soldier to another. A connection between the old world and the new. The breed's formal recognition in America came exactly a century later. The AKC recognized the breed in 1885. The American Kennel Club, establishing standards, creating official recognition. The Basset Hound, no longer just French imports, but an established American breed. With standards describing the ideal, with pedigrees tracked, with the breed's future formalized. It marked a transition, from curiosity to institution, from exotic to established. Not long after, another organization followed suit. United Kennel Club followed in 1903. The UKC, another major registry, confirming the Basset's place in American dog culture. Multiple organizations recognizing the breed, tracking bloodlines, holding shows. The Basset was here to stay. Embedded in the structure of American dog breeding and showing. No longer Washington's curiosity, but a breed with official standing, with enthusiasts, with a future. Then came a moment of mainstream visibility. A Basset Hound appeared on the cover of Time magazine in 1928. Time, one of America's most influential publications. And there, on the cover, a Basset. Not a president, not a celebrity, a dog. It signaled something. The breed had captured public imagination, had become noteworthy enough, distinctive enough, to grace that prestigious cover. People were noticing these droopy-faced, long-eared hounds. They were becoming famous. This distinctive appearance, it caught the eye of animators. The legendary Tex Avery, creator of some of animation's most memorable characters, he created Droopy. And Droopy was inspired by the Basset Hound. That hangdog expression, those droopy eyes and long face, that slow, deliberate movement, that understated personality. It's all Basset. Droopy became iconic, appearing in cartoons for decades, always with that deadpan delivery, that sad sack appearance hiding surprising capability. Millions of people, even if they'd never seen a real Basset, knew Droopy. And Droopy, in his own animated way, was spreading Basset essence into popular culture. The 1950s brought commercial fame. The breed became the mascot for Hush Puppies shoes in the 1950s. Hush Puppies, casual shoes, comfort shoes, and they chose the Basset Hound as their symbol. That relaxed image, that comfortable, laid-back personality, it aligned perfectly with the brand's message. The Basset logo appeared in advertisements, on packaging, in stores worldwide. For generations, people associated that droop-eared silhouette with comfortable footwear. The Basset became a marketing icon, a symbol of relaxation and ease. Some people's first exposure to the breed, it came through a shoe advertisement. Television brought Bassets into living rooms regularly. They appeared in Columbo, The Dukes of Hazzard, and Secret Life of Pets. Lieutenant Columbo, that rumpled detective, he had a Basset named Dog. The pairing was perfect, both understated, both appearing somewhat hapless while being surprisingly effective. The Dukes of Hazzard featured Flash, Sheriff Roscoe's beloved but lazy Basset, comic relief who perfectly embodied the breed's laid-back nature. And in modern animation, Secret Life of Pets introduced a new generation to Basset personality through Pops, the elderly Basset with wisdom and dignity. Each appearance, it reinforced certain ideas about the breed. Loyal but stubborn, slow-moving but determined, droopy-faced but lovable. Even rock and roll royalty fell for the Basset's charms. Elvis Presley owned a Basset named Sherlock. Elvis, the king, surrounded by luxury and fame, and he chose a Basset as companion. Sherlock, what a perfect name for a scent hound, a detective dog. There's something humanizing about it. Elvis with his Basset, the world's most famous entertainer sharing his life with this humble, droopy-eared hound. It speaks to the breed's universal appeal, that even at the heights of fame, the simple companionship of a Basset matters. And Elvis didn't just own a Basset in private. Elvis famously sang to a Basset Hound on live television. It was 1956, The Steve Allen Show, and Elvis, controversial, electrifying, the future of rock and roll, he performed hound dog to an actual hound. A Basset in a top hat, sitting on a pedestal, while Elvis sang to it. The moment was meant to be comedy, to diffuse some of Elvis's dangerous image, to make him safe for American living rooms. But it became iconic. That image, Elvis and the Basset, it's part of music history. And for the Basset Hound breed, it was exposure on an unprecedented scale. Millions watching, seeing this dignified dog sitting calmly while Elvis performed, creating an association between Bassets and entertainment, between Bassets and fame. Why have Bassets captured cultural imagination so thoroughly? Perhaps it's that face, that expression that looks perpetually sad, perpetually tired, perpetually resigned to the world's absurdities. It's relatable. We see ourselves in that face, our own weariness, our own patience in the face of life's challenges. Or perhaps it's the contrast between appearance and reality. They look lazy, but they're determined. They look sad, but they're content. They look simple, but they're complex. This gap, between what they appear to be and what they are, it creates character, story, interest. Or maybe it's simpler than that. Maybe they're just distinctive, unmistakable. You can't confuse a Basset with anything else. Those ears, those legs, that long, low body. They stand out. They are memorable. In a world of dog breeds that can blur together, the Basset is instantly recognizable. And in media, in marketing, in culture, being recognizable matters. Being distinct creates impact. From Washington's kennels to Elvis's arms, from Time magazine covers to shoe advertisements, from cartoon characters to television sidekicks, the Basset Hound has been there. Not always center stage, more often in supporting roles, but present. Consistent. Building a reputation across centuries. Becoming not just a breed, but a cultural touchstone. A reference point. Something that communicates certain qualities, certain feelings, just by its appearance. And through it all, through fame and media exposure, through being symbols and mascots, The actual dogs, they've remained themselves. Still following scent trails. Still baying at interesting smells. Still stubbornly independent and deeply loyal. Still moving at their own pace through a world that often moves too fast. The fame hasn't changed them. Hasn't made them something they're not. A Basset today, it's fundamentally the same as the Bassets Lafayette sent to Washington. The same as the ones that inspired Droopy. The same as Elvis's Sherlock. That continuity, that authenticity, maybe that's part of the appeal too. In a changing world, the Basset remains. Steady. Unchanging. Still themselves. There's comfort in that. Reliability. The culture shifts. Technology advances. Everything accelerates. But the Basset still waddles along at the same pace. Still investigates the same way. Still rests with the same contentment. Still looks at you with those same soulful, knowing eyes. They don't need to change. They don't need to adapt to trends. They are what they are, and what they are, apparently, is enough. Has always been enough. Will always be enough. Let that steadiness wash over you now, that sense of continuity across centuries, of dogs remaining true to their nature despite fame and cultural shifts. Unchanging, reliable, present. Breathe slowly, rest in this history, and soon we'll move forward once more. Now we enter the realm of the extraordinary, the unusual, the delightfully strange. Because Basset Hounds, beyond all we've discussed, they exist in a space of wonderful weirdness. They break records. They defy expectations. They occupy roles that seem absurd until you think about them. They are more than they appear. Let's explore the edges of what makes these dogs remarkable, the records they've set, the surprises they contain, the beautiful contradictions they embody. Let's start with those ears. We've talked about them functionally, as scent funnels. But let's talk about them competitively. The Guinness World Record for longest ears measured over 33 centimeters combined. 33 centimeters. That's over 13 inches of ear, total. Imagine measuring those ears, stretching them out carefully, one side then the other, adding the numbers. The dog who held this record, their ears were extraordinary even by Basset standards. Ears that swept the ground with every step. Ears that were excessive, magnificent, record-breaking. And it's not just one dog. Multiple Bassets have held ear-length records over the years. Different dogs, different eras, each one with ears that exceeded even the generous Basset norm. There's competition here, unofficial perhaps, but real. Breeders noticing particularly long ears. Owners measuring. Submitting to Guinness. The record changes hands. Someone breeds a dog with ears just slightly longer. The cycle continues. It's charming, in its way. That humans care enough about dog ear length to track world records. That we celebrate these droopy extremes. That we document, officially, just how magnificently long these ears can grow. Now here's something that seems impossible. One Basset Hound successfully raced against greyhounds. Think about that. Greyhounds, built for speed, aerodynamic, capable of 45 miles per hour. And a Basset, built for, well, not speed. Built for steady pursuit. For endurance. For anything but racing. And yet, one did. Successfully. Now, we should define successfully. It probably didn't win. That would be miraculous. But it completed the race. It ran. It crossed the finish line. Against dogs designed to run fast, a Basset proved it could at least participate. There's something beautiful about that. About trying something you're not built for. About dignity in the face of obvious disadvantage. About just showing up. Here's where things get political. Some Bassets have served as honorary town mayors. Yes, mayors. Dogs holding elected office. Well, honorary office. Small towns, often as publicity stunts or charity fundraisers, they elect animal mayors. And Bassets, with their dignified appearance, their patient demeanor, their inherent gravitas, they make excellent candidates. Imagine the campaign. Vote Basset, steady leadership. The inauguration ceremony. The official photo with the mayoral sash draped over those long ears. Town meetings where the mayor mostly naps. It's absurd. It's wonderful. It says something about both small-town charm and the Basset's universal appeal. That we can look at these dogs and think, yes, mayor material. Let's return to what they do best. The nose. The legendary Basset nose. They can detect scents days old. Not just hours. Days. A trail that went cold, that other dogs couldn't follow. That seems impossible to track. A Basset can still work it. Can still pull information from scent molecules lingering in soil, on vegetation, in the air. Days old. Think about what that means. The olfactory processing power required. The sensitivity. The ability to distinguish meaningful scent from background noise. It's almost supernatural. But it's just biology. Evolution. Breeding. The Basset nose, operating at a level we can barely comprehend. And in the hierarchy of noses, in the ranking of scent detection ability, their noses are second only to bloodhounds. Second in the world. Only the bloodhound, with its even more exaggerated features, its even heavier skin folds, its absolute specialization in tracking, only the bloodhound surpasses them. Every other breed falls behind. The Basset is number 2. Silver medal in the global nose competition. It's an extraordinary thing, to be second best in the world at something. Most dogs can't come close. But the Basset, with that low body keeping the nose near scent sources, with those ears stirring up particles, with skin folds trapping information, they're right there. Almost the best. Definitely extraordinary. Now, let's address a misconception. People see that droopy face, that tired expression, those half-closed eyes, and they think, emotionless, unresponsive. But despite appearances, they are emotionally expressive dogs. Very expressive. You just have to know where to look. That face, it doesn't change much. The eyes remain droopy. The jowls hang the same way regardless of mood. Facial expressions, they are limited. But the emotions, the feelings, they're all there. You just have to read differently. Because they use body language more than facial cues. Watch the tail. The posture. The ears, not the droop but the position, forward or back. The way they hold their body, tense or relaxed. The speed of movement, eager or reluctant. A happy Basset, the whole back end wags, not just the tail but the entire rear half of the dog. An uncertain Basset, the body goes still, cautious. An excited Basset, they bounce, actually bounce, all 4 feet leaving the ground in joyful anticipation. The face might not show it. But the body tells everything. Let's reconsider that famous stubbornness. That refusal to immediately obey. That tendency to think things through before complying. Their stubbornness reflects problem-solving instincts. It's not defiance. It's intelligence. A different kind of intelligence than eager obedience, but intelligence nonetheless. In their working life, they had to problem-solve. Had to follow trails that twisted and turned. Had to figure out where the scent went when it seemed to disappear. Had to make decisions independently, without human guidance, because the human was following them, not leading. Stubbornness, it's really autonomy. Decision-making capacity. The ability to assess a situation and choose a course of action. We call it stubborn because it sometimes conflicts with what we want. But it's actually cognitive sophistication. Want to know the secret to Basset happiness? Here it is. They are happiest when allowed to sniff freely. Not rushing. Not being dragged along on a walk where the human sets the pace and destination. But allowed to stop. To investigate. To follow their nose wherever it leads. To spend 5 minutes sniffing one particularly interesting spot. To zigzag across the path following scent trails invisible to human perception. This is joy for them. This is fulfillment. The freedom to use their primary sense, to do what they were designed to do, to follow curiosity wherever it leads. Give a Basset this, regular opportunities to just sniff, and you've given them what they need most. But deny them this, leave them understimulated, give them nothing interesting to investigate. And here's what happens. A bored basset will invent mischief. Guaranteed. They're too intelligent to simply accept boredom. Too curious to shut down. So they find entertainment. Digging in the garden, investigating the trash, taking items and carrying them around, howling just to hear themselves. Getting into things they shouldn't. It's not malicious. It's not even really misbehavior. It's a smart, curious dog creating their own mental stimulation in the absence of appropriate outlets. The solution isn't punishment. It's engagement. Give them appropriate ways to use that nose, that brain, and the mischief disappears. When properly engaged, when doing what they were bred for, a trained basset can track miles without fatigue. Miles. Hour after hour. Following a scent trail over varying terrain. Through woods and fields. Up hills. Through streams. Never giving up. Never getting tired. That endurance we mentioned earlier, it's real. It's profound. They are not sprinters. But they are marathoners. Ultramarathoners even. Give them a trail to follow, and they'll follow it until it ends. Or until you, the human, give up. Because you'll tire before they do. Your feet will hurt. Your patience will wear thin. But the basset keeps going. Nose down. Tail up. Moving steadily forward. Inexhaustible when following scent. And this brings us to perhaps the most wonderful contradiction of all. The Basset Hound is an ancient hunting machine disguised as a couch ornament. Look at them lounging. Sprawled across furniture. Eyes half closed. Deeply relaxed. Content to nap for hours. They look decorative. Lazy. Like living pillows. Like the least athletic dogs imaginable. And then, introduce a scent trail. Watch the transformation. The couch ornament becomes a working dog. The lazy napper becomes focused, determined, tireless. The disconnect between appearance and capability, it's almost comical. But it's real. Both versions are true. They are simultaneously, genuinely lazy when nothing interesting is happening, and genuinely tireless when their nose engages. This is the paradox at the heart of the basset. They contain multitudes. They're record breakers and town mares. They're second best noses in the world, and they're dogs who successfully, somehow, race against greyhounds. They look emotionally flat but express everything through body language. They seem stubborn but they're actually problem-solving. They appear to be decorative furniture but they're hunting machines in standby mode. They're ancient and modern. Working dogs and companion animals. Lazy and inexhaustible. Doper-looking and remarkably intelligent. They defy easy categorization. Resist simple description. You think you understand them, and then they surprise you. Show you another facet. Another capability. Another contradiction. And maybe that's part of the fascination. Part of why they've endured. Part of why they hold records and honorary offices and positions in our culture. Because they're more. More than they seem. More than you expect. Always a little bit weird. In the most wonderful way. Let yourself smile at this strangeness, at dogs with record-breaking ears and mayoral titles, at the beautiful contradictions they embody, at couch ornaments that can track for miles, at the glorious weirdness of the Basset Hound. Rest in this appreciation, breathe, and soon we'll continue onward.